AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
Off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. AFR presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. I'm Matt.
You're a loser, Matt.
Shut up, kid. Paul O'Neill.
They're chanting Paul O'Neill's name.
And Mr. Toby Tomplay. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. Will Clapp in 15 minutes. Terrio next hour. Tigers back on the diamond. We got a restructure for Alvin Kamara. Brian Kelly meets with Danny Cannell. That was weird. Let us begin as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
Brian Kelly was fired after LSU lost to Texas A&M, complete collapse in the second half. It's strange sometimes if you think back to it. LSU led that game 18-14 at half. Tiger Stadium was full throat, feeling pretty good. And then after 30 more minutes of football, everyone at LSU had seen enough, and they were committed to spending $54 million for him not to coach anymore. Since then, Brian Kelly hasn't done any media. Privately, I think people have spoken with him. I texted Coach Kelly after he was fired, and I don't mind. It's nothing groundbreaking. Just thanking him for the professional respect, courtesy he showed us during his time at LSU. But that's the last heard from him. And then Friday morning on Sirius XM College Sports Radio on Dusty and Danny in the morning. That's Dusty Dvorak, Danny Cannell. Brian Kelly pops up and does an interview with these guys. So interesting, because it's the first time we've heard Brian Kelly publicly speak at length since he was fired. And they covered an awful lot of ground in a long-ranging interview. It started with just the emotions of being fired for the first time in his career.
I don't know that you question, but you look carefully about why this happened. And look, the easy answer is I didn't win enough games. I mean, that's the bottom line, right? But we came there to build a program, and we didn't get a chance to finish it. So I think probably the overriding emotion in that respect is, disappointed that we didn't get to finish the job, because I've been in it long enough to know, as you said, and, you're in this long enough, you're probably going to get fired. But I never thought that would occur. So I think the emotions more than anything else for me was disappointment.
So there's a lot of stuff in ground that Kelly covered in this. The thing that's getting the most attention and traction here today is a dollar amount, not his buyout, but the dollar amount for this roster. And it's a little surprising because the reaction is surprising because if you followed this show or anything locally here for the last 60 days, this has been something we've talked about pretty openly, that LSU spent more than $40 million on this roster for 2026. And my information is that a lot of these contracts have different, escalators or protections in them based on things like playing time. For example, Sam Levitt has a really big deal, but he's coming off a list frank, so he could max it out more than the 5.5, which is being reported. And as I understand, if he doesn't play, it could go lower than that. So don't know exactly where the number is going to land, but we've talked pretty openly about the numbers here on the show, but for a lot of people, it's the first time they heard this.
College football is not in a bad place. The revenue is ridiculous. Like, I don't even know how LSU's doing it, right? They're paying Lane Kiffin, whatever. They're paying me. That's crazy. That shouldn't happen. But it is because the money is out there. So the problems are real, but college football is still in a pretty good place.
It's in a great place. And they're paying a $40 million roster, by the way, down there. I mean,
Maybe a little more.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more. If you want to tell us how much more, what you know, we'd love that. With that being said.
More than 40, I'll tell you that.
I just don't think that that's actually groundbreaking or anything news. I mean, we've reported that at LouisianaSports.net. We've had it here on AFR. I've talked about it on Locked on LSU. Actually, I had an episode of Locked on LSU where I tweeted a bit ago, actually responded to Danny Cannell on Twitter with that, not in a contentious way, just if anyone's interested, how the money worked the way it did for LSU to be able to do this, if you're interested in that. That's the thing that's getting the most attention. I think the other thing we've probably heard quite a bit since Brian Kelly was fired was that he there's this assumption and assertion that Kelly was not committed or locked in. There's all these I've heard it from so many people about Kelly playing golf all the time, and clearly he's heard it as well.
Well, if you ask LSU, I was playing 350 rounds of golf all through the year and drinking in my office. The thing they didn't know is I have a torn left rotator cuff that I suffered in the Florida game on the sideline. I got hit by an offensive and defensive lineman, and it tore my rotator cuff. So I haven't played much golf. I've been rehabbing mostly.
I actually asked him about that after. I said, man, dude got you pretty good, huh? He did take a pretty good wallop on the sideline. The thing about that, and I know that's become a pretty common refrain from LSU fans, media, administrators, whatever. I think a lot of that surfaced as LSU was trying to work its way through a for-cause firing. The drinking in the office thing, which he sort of jokingly referred to there, that was going to be part of drinking on the job, was going to be part of the complaint against Brian Kelly and the firing for cause. There were other things as well. This isn't with the benefit of hindsight. We talked about it at the time. Nobody mentioned Brian Kelly playing golf ever when Jaden Daniels was winning a Heisman and they won the West in year one, and they were a preseason top 10 team this year and beat Clemson. Nobody mentioned him playing golf. Only when this thing unraveled did that start to become a conversation piece. And the only thing I would suggest is just be fair and consistent. It's very clear there were gigantic expectations, which is why Brian Kelly took this job. He took the job at a time where it was a transformative period in college football, college athletics, really. But the analogy I like to give is LSU, and spending $100 million on Brian Kelly, bought a fleet of horses the day the Model T was invented. Right at the time, at the onset of NIL, is when they hired Brian Kelly, who for 3 decades had won at a high level everywhere he had been, doing things a certain way, recruiting, developing. And it became more about buying rosters than recruiting and developing. And that became evident. And now LSU's coach is the guy that's sort of been at the forefront of how to build a roster in the modern era. Now, can he win at the highest level? We'll see. I mean, I don't know. I hope he does. But I think sometimes when something ends badly, we tend to forget the good things that happen. And Brian Kelly did a lot of good. Just in the end, ultimately, they determined it was going to be a situation where they weren't going to be able to reach. They didn't feel they could reach the lofty goals that are expected to be attained in this program with that coaching staff leading the way. And so they moved on. We'll hear more from Brian Kelly. We'll sprinkle some of this in throughout the course of the show today. It was an interesting interview. They had a long-ranging interview with Brian Kelly. But look, he took some of the culpability and some of the blame and talked about, he should have been more involved with coordinators. And look, he called plays for the bulk of his career and then didn't. I mean, there was a notable situation earlier this year where Joe Sloan called a play near the end of the half, and it was a running play and guy got tackled in bounds. You can see Brian Kelly on the headset saying, Joe, you can't call that play with no timeouts. And that's one of those things where maybe Kelly should have been more involved. We talked about it earlier this year. Should Kelly maybe have taken over play calling duties? There's a lot of and I know it's hard for LSU fans maybe to look, because so many right now are looking through the windshield because there's so much excitement about the Kiffin era, right? You pulled off this major coup getting Lane Kiffin, and you go spend all this money on this portal class, and there's all this excitement about what's ahead that you don't want to look back. And I get that. I'm not suggesting that you shouldn't be focused on the future, but the past, especially the immediate past, is going to be a very notable moment in LSU football history. And this is some interesting context from Brian Kelly. So we'll talk about a bit more of it as we move throughout the show today. Show Open Every Day is brought to you by Bud Light. Drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of AFR, the official beer of your Fighting Tigers of LSU. You're going to be at the box, LSU, Sacramento State this weekend. Make sure when you head to the concession stand, grab plenty of delicious ice-cold Bud Light, the official beer of the national champs. As a matter of fact, you can get the 16-ounce commemorative aluminum bottles. Look for them at great retailers around town. 16-ounce aluminum bottles. It's the white bottle with the gray tiger stripe and the beautiful national championship baseball logo. Remember, they had the women's basketball national championship bottles, the 2023 baseball national title bottles as well. So make sure you grab plenty of delicious ice-cold Bud Light. Know you're supporting the Tigers when you do. Drink easy with a great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of AFR. Okay, Terrio in 48 minutes from right now. When we come back, Saints offensive assistant Will Clapp will join the show. Look forward to that. Stick around. It's AFR.
AFR.
If you're thinking about selling your home, you need to call Darren James. 335-7666, 335-7666, 335-7666, or agent225.com, agent225.com. Darren's so in tune with the market. I get an email about once a week from Darren. Market report for my home. You ever curious, like, what's your home worth? If you're thinking about selling your home, what's your home worth? And what would it cost you to get into another home? All of those economics factor into your decision. There's a great tool on the homepage at agent225.com. I've told you about for some time now. It's if you go to agent225.com, there's the home value tool right there. If you're on the homepage on mobile, scroll down. If you're on desktop, it's bottom right. All you do is type in your address, and just like that, in seconds, using local market data, it'll tell you what your home is worth right now. Agent225.com, agent225.com.
Think real estate, think Darren James.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Saints have added a new offensive assistant. Familiar name. Will Clapp, good enough to join the show. Hey, man, thanks for the time. How are you?
Matt, I appreciate you having me on, man.
No, thank you for the time. I'm sure it's been busy. First of all, congrats on an awesome career. We're happy for you. How did you come to the decision to call it a career, man?
Yeah, just another injury, another year on IR. It was a tough year, but the coaching deal, Kellen, Nuge, Nuss all gave me an opportunity just to help out and be as involved as I wanted to be and learn a bunch. And I really loved what I did that year. And then the opportunity came a couple weeks ago to interview and potentially join the staff, and it all worked out. So I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer, just off of the joy I had being on the staff, or having an look into the staff this past season, helping out.
Hey man, did you ever think you wanted to go into coaching?
I've never really thought about it like in college or high school or anything like that. Like my whole life was just being a football player. Like I remember in high school, like my dad was like, I wanted to get a job, and my dad's like, your only job is to play football and get a scholarship. And then after LSU, my whole life was just trying to stay around the league and do whatever it took to crank out 8 years. And so I never really thought about it, but as I got older in the league, I kind of saw what my role was of being a veteran presence, helping guys, kind of being another voice for the coaches. And I was just lucky enough that this kind of fell together the way it did. Yeah, man. I remember we talked to you in the off season, and you kind of talked a little bit about that, Will, like being sort of a coach on the field there in LA, certainly with Kellen, and going up to Buffalo and then back home.
So was there a moment this year as you were going through the rehab and kind of helping on the field? Was there a moment this year where you thought this could be a path? Did you ever have a conversation like with your family about that?
Certainly at one point during the year, I mean, my wife saw how much fun I was having with it. And, I was just every day at practice, you getting to work with some of the younger guys, some of the guys that, were kind of on, similar paths that I were, a young guy fighting to make the roster. And I was, just sharing everything I could with them just to help them prolong their careers and, try to set them up with a good foundation. And, I kind of told her, I was like, man, I told her, probably it's week 8 or so, sometime in that time of the season, I said, hey, if I ever got offered a coaching job, I think I'd take it. I mean, this is something I'm loving doing. And, at that point, like we had already been talking about, that probably being it for my playing career. Like I said, I'm just super fortunate and blessed that Kellen gave me this opportunity after I decided to retire.
Will, Will Clapp's our guest. So we know Jari obviously left to go take a job in Pittsburgh. I'm just playing a hypothetical. So if Jari hadn't left, do you know if there would have been a spot?
Either way, I think I was pretty certain I was done. I mean, as soon as the injury happened, I felt like my time was already coming to an end with just being an older backup in the league, and especially after having an injury at 30 with not much film for 2 years. I can kind of read the writing on the wall. So I mean that was already in my mind, but I guess I would never like truly know because like the coaching thing had kind of been on my mind, and then but I felt like everything happens for a reason, and this kind of just fell into place the way it did, and I felt like this was just the best opportunity for me.
I want to talk about the future and coaching and the team and the staff and all in a second, but I do want to ask you about this season because, man, Will, you probably would have had a great opportunity. It sucks that Eric McCoy got hurt, but for your list, Frank, I mean, you would have had a great opportunity to play this year. Does any of that go through your mind about the opportunity maybe lost this year because of the injury?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was tough with Eric going down, and I was, competing to be in line to be his backup, and obviously Luke came in and did such a great job and set himself up for a great opportunity in free agency. I can look back at multiple times in my career of, what if this, what if that, but it could also swing the other way. And at the end of the day, like, I just feel so fortunate. I played 8 years in the NFL. I mean, I remember my first rookie mini camp with the Saints, and I was like, man, I'll be lucky if I make it past the weekend. I did not think. I was like, man, there's no way I'm making this team. And, I was just, just kept fighting. And every day I was thankful to be there. And like I said, 8 years later, I was, I'm walking away from the game happy of what I did and just super excited about the next chapter in my life.
Wait, so how did you make it? Go back to the rookie minicamp. If you thought you wouldn't make it past the weekend, like what happened?
I was having just an awful rookie minicamp. I mean, it's like a 3-day rookie minicamp, and I'm just playing terrible. And I'm just like, I already knew, like, as a rookie, I probably knew more or was worried more than most about like the business side of it. And I was like, man, I'm 7th round pick. Like, I got to be on it every day if I want to be around here. So yeah, dude, I mean, then obviously they gave me some time and I started to figure it out once like we got to training camp, and I was able to, fight and make that roster my rookie year. And that was always the deal going forward, is like, I was never the guy who was going to be on the roster, or like, Derek Panamsky and I, every training camp, he would text me after I'd make the initial 53, and he'd say, just ruining everybody's projected 53s every year of your career. That was, and I said they all hate me for it. And that was just kind of our joke of like, every year I'm going to be a guy who's a roster bubble player and just fight to make the team. And I took pride in that. Every training camp was a fight. Every training camp I had to come in with the best shape and just be able to compete, and I was able to do that. It's
we were talking about it last week when the announcement was made. Man, you had a pretty charmed career, right? A kid from New Orleans whose dad played at LSU. You go play for, Brother Martin, the Tigers, 2-time All-SEC. And you get to play for your hometown team and retire as Saint as well. Like, I know you'll have time at some point in your life to really reflect on all of that. But have you given that any thought yet?
Yeah, I mean, it still feels like unreal just the way it happened. I mean, up until going into my 5th season, I had never played football outside the state of Louisiana. Like Brother Martin, LSU, Saints, and then finished my 4th season in New Orleans, and I head on to play for the Chargers. And at that point, like, I had never left Louisiana. Like, my wife and I had just either lived in Baton Rouge going to college, or we moved back home, and we did our thing in New Orleans like we always had. I think it was actually awesome for to get that time, but then also the time away to one, really appreciate what we have going on here in New Orleans, and knowing like raising kids in New Orleans and being around family, but also having that time in California and Buffalo just to be out there as a family and enjoy a little trip away, and a new adventure was a great time. What's it like being a dad? It's the best, man. I mean, it's like the most challenging thing that I've ever done, but it's the most rewarding thing too. I mean, my kids are great, and I couldn't do it without my wife. Like, my wife makes my job as a dad like 100 times easier. So I think it's a group effort by us, and every day we're just trying to do our best, and loving our kids as much as we can. Yeah, man. Cheers to that. I love the post you made whenever you announced a retirement. It was like a carousel of photos of you both through the years, and just watching that all develop was so cool. Hey, before you go, I want to ask you just a couple as we look forward, because I mean, you're a Saints assistant now, which is really cool. Your thoughts on this offensive line group, which I think we're all assuming the team's going to be pretty aggressive in adding an interior player. What'd you think of the guy? I mean, especially the young tackles, but what'd you think of that unit going into next year? I think we laid a really good foundation. Obviously, we have 2 really great young tackles. And the rest of the room, Eric, Caesar, Dylan, Luke, I mean, all guys that have earned their mark in this league. I think it's an exciting thing to be as a lineman when you have a young quarterback like Tyler to protect, and I think the future is just bright. I'm excited for this group. Obviously, last year was tough. I mean, at one point, I think we had lost maybe 6 or 7 in a row, and I never, as a player in the room that was just trying to help out and stay involved, I never felt a room that was like down on itself. It was a hungry group that wanted to improve, get better, and that last 6-7 weeks of the season was just a blast. I mean, we had fun. It's just winning cures all, and as we get better and better and get to work in this off season, I think we can set ourselves up to experience more of that like we did late in the season. No doubt, man. It was a fun end of the fun final month and a half. Certainly. I don't know if you're able to say, and if not, that's fine. But are you around Eric to know how he's doing in his recovery from the injury? I mean, Eric's working his tail off. I haven't specifically talked to him. Sure. I was out of the building for once week 18 hit. I was pretty much cleared from my injury, so all I did for 2 months was golf and drop my kids off at school. Like I was like living the retired life. For everybody was texting me, hey, I can't believe you're only retired for like 3 days. Like I knew I was retired essentially. But then like the whole like Kellen thing, I just wasn't like in a rush to like post anything. Like that's just not like who I am. But then I figured I should probably post something before like this thing becomes like official. But I've been out of the building, so I've seen Eric a couple times. He's working his butt off, and I know he's working hard to come back and lead that room. Oh man, a guy was out. That's so good. Hey, if the coaching thing doesn't work, we could always use interns back here at Guarantee, man. You're the open door policy if you want to come back. All right, we got an opportunity for you. Just saying. All right. Dude, I will never plug in names in a system ever again. I'm glad I didn't even have to say it. So, because I told that story last week, Will. Like, there was one day where, I don't even know if you remember this, you were hiding up in, like, the 4th floor conference, the Studio 4 conference room, just like, I'm hiding from Mr. Cade. I can't enter emails anymore. The funniest, my buddy actually sent me the clip, and I was laughing, because the funniest part about it is like I had heard all the stories of like guys not doing anything, and just like, and I show up and I'm like I put in like first day, I put in like 5 hours on the computer just plugging in names, and I'm like, what do I got? I was like, I think I had just come off of like I was either like freshman All-American or All-SEC that year, and I'm like, what do I got to do? Like, everybody else just came in here and did nothing. I'm coming off a pretty good season. I can't do any of that.
Yeah, well,
I was like, I got to be better,
bro. You were one of the guys that showed up, man, and you were rewarded with plugging names into a database. God bless you.
Luckily, T-Bob found me, and he just was like, he's like, hey, you work for me now, and took me.
come on in the mornings, like just don't do that anymore. Hey man, it's congrats again, man. We're pulling for you always. I hope the coaching thing goes great, and we wish you all the best, man. Thanks for the time.
Yes, sir, Matt. Appreciate you.
All right, be well. That's Will Clapp, Saints assistant Will Clapp. I'm fired up for him, man. That's awesome. Good, just a genuinely good dude who's been nothing but good and class and worked hard and all that sort of stuff, and generous with his time, and doesn't have to come on radio, but still does, and we appreciate him. Wish him the best. So, I mean, now look, he's got an opportunity there with the Saints, and it was interesting because the last time we talked to Will, I think, I'm trying to remember the timeline. I don't know if you have the date of the last time Will popped on the show, but it was I think it was after his injury, and he was talking about that, was kind of that opportunity of just being sort of a player coach. And I'm excited that opportunity. So I really wonder, because it feels like that opportunity came because Jari Evans took the job with the Steelers, right? And so it opened up that assistant offensive line job. I mean, they could have added another player, no doubt. But with Jari leaving, it felt like just naturally it opened up a spot and Will was able to step into it. That's awesome, man. I'm fired up for him. Wish him all the best. All right, it's after further review. Let me knock out a quick break. We're brought to you by First South Farm Credit, firstsouthland.com. firstsouthland.com. Thinking of buying land? Your first call should be to First South Farm Credit. Your first call should be First South Farm Credit. They've been first in agriculture, first in real estate, and they're first. They're first. That's why they're first. First South Farm Credit. firstsouthland.com, firstsouthland.com. 1916? I mean, 110 years? 110 years ago, they opened their door. For 110 years, First South Farm Credit's done one thing: help Louisianians buy land. So if you want to buy land, that recreational property, hunting property, maybe an investment property, maybe it's 1,000 acres for agriculture. Maybe it's that 50 acres to build your family's dream home. First South Farm Credit can help. firstsouthland.com. firstsouthland.com. Your first call should be to First South Farm Credit. firstsouthland.com. Okay, y'all, it is after further review. Terrio here in half an hour. Excuse me. Looking forward to that conversation as always. We'll go around the SEC when we come back. Terrio will talk plenty of LSU baseball with us. A group of influential college football adjacent people meeting with the president today, this committee to sort of maybe fix college athletics. Whatever comes of that, we'll discuss it. Man, a lot to do, and glad you're hanging out with us here at AFR.
After further review.
What if I told you you could build, design, and pay for your pool online? We buy everything online, don't we? We buy toothpaste online. We buy dinner online. Some of us buy cars online. We buy everything online. Why not a pool? Duplessis Builders makes that a reality. If nothing else, this is just a really cool widget to go play with. Go to duplessisbuilders.net. Do it right now. Log on. You got your phone in your hand, just punch in duplessisbuilders.net. Duplessisbuilders.net. Don't do it if you're driving. But if you're somewhere where you can actually just sit for a second and type this in, it's so cool. Go to duplessisbuilders.net. You'll see where it says pick your pool. There's 11 different designs, all different shapes, classic styles, 11 different pool designs. Pick whichever design you want, and then you can go through and choose every custom feature you want. You can pay for it right there. duplessisbuilders.net. It's all there. Online, do it. duplessisbuilders.net.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
I think my point being is from a continuity standpoint, when you have change and turnover, you better get closer to it. You better get closer to who the players are that you're bringing in and turning over, and you better get closer to your coaches so you know exactly what's going on a day-to-day basis.
That was Brian Kelly on Dusty and Danny in the morning on Sirius XM. Opened the show today with a few of the tidbits there. Thanks to Will Clapp, who was just with us a bit ago. Terrio's here in 23 minutes. Talk plenty of LSU baseball as the Tigers get ready to welcome in Sacramento State. Do have some Saints stuff I want to get to. The Saints have restructured Alvin Kamara's contract. Get to that in about a dozen minutes. And it's strange how they've restructured. It's not that they've restructured. It's how they've restructured it, which is kind of giving some tips and signals into what they may be thinking as far as AK's future with the team. But one more from BK here. And this is one that I think, whether at this point in your life and your fandom, you're interested in what went wrong under Brian Kelly and all this stuff, what is certainly interesting is what Brian Kelly's future hold, because there's mitigation clause in his contract, right? LSU owes him $54 million. But if he coaches again, that number is mitigated by the salary of wherever he may work next. So the guys asked Brian Kelly, do you want to coach again?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I've made the decision that I want to get back in as all the things that we've talked about. I'd want to see some changes. But I think while you wait, you need to work. And so I need to stay in the game. So my first order of business is this next 2-3 weeks, I'm going to be visiting some places to see spring ball. I want to do that in the fall too. You know, look, I got 4 former assistant coaches that are head football coaches in the NFL. You know, I've got, 4, Power 4 assistant coaches that we're close to. I want to get around and see their program, see how they're doing, get a sense of where I can grow and I can be better. And so that's really my focus right now. And then if the right situation, comes about, and I'm ready, I'm certainly going to entertain that.
Brian Kelly's 64 years old. It's certainly not to suggest that at 64 you're done. At 64, it'll be 65 in October, and you just heard him say he'll continue looking in the fall. It certainly doesn't sound like a guy that's intending on coaching somewhere this season. Wants to stay close to the game, so what does that mean? Go to some places he's familiar in the NFL and college and shadow and watch. Maybe that means a media deal in 2025. By the way, his buyout would be mitigated by salary from a media contract as well, so something to consider. But from LSU's perspective, they certainly want Brian Kelly to work, because for every dollar he makes working, his buyout's reduced by that amount. So that's something certainly worth noting. But guy will be 65 in October. What opportunity at a Power 4 school that would provide an opportunity to win a championship would be there for Brian Kelly? I don't know. I don't know that there's one that's seemingly readily available. So, and would he get back in as an assistant somewhere? Hard to believe that. I don't know. That's going to be. It feels like the more realistic path for Brian Kelly would be in media. Would be to take a TV job. He'd be great at that. Some type of TV job or media job at one of the networks. Maybe that's the path for Brian Kelly, but we'll follow it, of course. Okay, we'll go around the SEC in just a second. We are brought to you by Rouse's. Hey, it's a Friday in Lent. If you're abstaining from meat, remember, they got crawfish at all 76 Rouse's locations with their in-house boiling rooms. So when you walk into Rouse's and you see the crawfish, every bag of crawfish that you see, boiled, bagged, and tagged, all of them boiled every single day in-house at their boiling rooms in-house at all Rouse's locations. So super easy to get on by. Just grab and go at Rouse's. They've also got great seafood options. I mean, I'm looking at this right here. Monkfish fillets for $9.99 a pound. Some incredible fish cutting demos at a lot of the stores this weekend. We mentioned the crawfish. They got the hot and boiled kiosks where you can go and get whatever your flavor is. It's at Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Rouse's.com, Rouse's.com, Rouse's. This feels like home. Okay, do it every day about this time. Let's go around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference, the Ole Miss Rebels.
Defensive lineman Ben Jarvis Shoemaker committed to Ole Miss on Friday, 4th commit for the class of 2027. 6'3", 260. He's the number 54 overall prospect in the country, the 5th best defensive lineman. He's the number 2 player in the state of Mississippi. Pick the Rebs over Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M.
The South Carolina Gamecocks.
South Carolina native and JUCO offensive tackle Ashton Mazzoni has committed to the Gamecocks, 6'4", 330. The number 8 JUCO offensive tackle in his class. Going to help the offensive line, which is facing a bunch of injuries, including 2 players at tackle.
The Arkansas Razorbacks.
Darius Acuff doubtful for Saturday's game against Missouri due to an undisclosed injury. John Rothstein first to report the news. Likely an ankle injury, according to the report. Suffered against Auburn back on Feb 14. Acuff's averaging 22 and 6 per game. He's on pace, how about this, to be the first player since Pete Maravich to average at least 22 points and 6 assists per game.
The Alabama Crimson Tide.
Top 30 overall small forward Jackson Richardson has committed to Alabama. He's the number 27 overall player in the country for 2026. He's a 6'6", a small forward out of the state of Florida. Chose the Crimson Tide over Southern Cal, Creighton, and Ole Miss. He's McDonald's All-American. He's the son, by the way, of Jason Richardson, 2-time NBA dunk contest champ.
The Kentucky Wildcats.
And preseason All-American Tyler Bell has been medically cleared to play for the Batcats. The sophomore shortstop, he'll be limited to hitting and running the bases, so likely be a DH initially as he comes back. Injured his shoulder diving for a ball behind second base in the season opener against Greensboro. But still, Kentucky 11-2, despite playing without their star shortstop. So Tyler Bell beginning his return this weekend against the Citadel. All right, there you have it. That is Around the SEC Friday shows brought to you by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Hey, this coming Tuesday, is an awesome veterans event over at Don Juan Cigar Bar, 6 to 8 p.m., honoring our veterans. So get on by. Justine will be back for those who are Don Juan regulars. Justine was GM there forever, recently left to work for a premier cigar brand. And she'll be back with a lot with Punch and with a lot of the other brands that they represent, Cohiba. It'll be a great night this coming Tuesday, 6 to 8, honoring our veterans. So want to have some craft cocktails, fine premium cigars, enjoy a night at Don Juan Cigar Bar. Any night's a great night, but think about it this Tuesday with Veterans Night coming up. This Tuesday, 6 to 8 p.m. at Don Juan Cigar Bar in Town Center in Baton Rouge. Okay, y'all, it is after further review. We'll knock out a quick break, Terrio, in 15 minutes. When we come back, wrap up hour number 1. We'll kind of sift through this Alvin Kamara restructure, which isn't a typical restructure. What this may mean for Kamara's future in New Orleans, we'll dive into it next on AFR.
After further review.
REV, let's rev. Let's rev.com, let's rev.com, let's rev.com. Remember our friends over at Rev, they're absolutely the best. We recently at the Scone household switched when they went to the all-fiber network in our neighborhood. Worth a call to Rev to see if they've laid fiber in your neighborhood yet, or maybe around your business, because 70,000 Louisiana home and business owners trust Rev. Here at Guarantee Media, we trust Rev. Parish Construction and Roofing, we are Rev customers. The Moscona household, we are Rev customers. Lightning fast internet speeds up to 5 gigs. All fiber network, cables buried under the ground, so you don't have to worry about a storm knocking the power out and knocking you offline. And then, of course, you get the benefit of local service and great pricing. They're going to give you better pricing than the other companies. And when you call for service, you're calling a local company. It's Rev. 90 years of local experience. R-E-V. Let's rev.com. Let's rev.com.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Saints are working their way through all their cap gymnastics. It's just not as intense this year as in years past, where they've had to restructure deals to, in some instances, clear over $100 million in cap space to be able to get within cap compliance. As it stands right now, the New Orleans Saints have a surplus with the deals that they've already done. So when you look at top 51 contracts, which would count against your cap, Saints have just about a little under $20 million as of now in free money to spend. Not free, but available to spend. So on this roster. So they're going into, with no other deals still, they're going into the start of the league year and free agency next week in a relatively healthy spot, considering what we're typically used to this time of year. And there's several reasons for that. Obviously, Derek Carr's retirement took a giant chunk off the books. The increase in revenues meant an increase in the salary cap, so that gives you some relief as well. So some of the bad contracts that are expiring and rotating off and the increased cap is putting the Saints in a better situation. So the last thing in the world you want to do is keep restructuring a bunch of deals to make them bad deals to then compound the problem that you had for so long. Well, the Saints have restructured several deals that we know already, we've talked about, that have helped get them within cap compliance and then free up more space. Chase Young most notably among them. But the news today, here on Friday, is that the Saints have restructured Alvin Kamara's contract. And what's interesting is this isn't just a standard restructuring, and I don't want to take for granted that everybody understands this, but I'll at the risk of just oversimplifying it, basically what a restructure does is it takes your contract, whatever your base salary is you're going to get that year, and converts that or a chunk of that into a signing bonus, and then you're able to spread out that chunk of money against your cap into future years. So like if you, let's say, if you restructure and it's a $10 million restructure, well, the team will give you $10 million restructured into your signing bonus. So instead of getting your weekly installment, your weekly checks during the season, your game checks at that rate, prorated, you get it all right now up front, but the cap hits, because it's a bonus, can be spread out over the year. And so what counts against the cap is a lesser dollar amount this year. So as Mike Garafolo reported, and Nick Underhill was on this as well, by the way, that this is not a traditional standard restructure for Kamara. As Garafolo notes, and as Underhill notes, it could provide cap flexibility if Kamara is not with the team. So it's lowered his cap number by $8 million. So they've converted $10.155 million of that salary, but not the same standard conversion like we've seen with Justin Reed, Juwan Johnson, Chase Young. So it'll lower that cap number. It'll provide the Saints roughly $8 million in cap relief for this year. But again, as Garafolo says, there's also more flexibility if Kamara's not with the team. So all that to say, there's still a chance that Alvin Kamara won't be with the New Orleans Saints in 2026 based on how they've structured this. Now, we're going to get more information on this as it moves forward and they speak to it. But I think what you did here was you provided two options. One is a more sensible number for Alvin Kamara if, in fact, he is back this season. But it also allowed some protections if the NFL league year begins next week and New Orleans goes and signs a free agent running back, and then all of a sudden Kamara isn't necessarily at the top of your priority list or doesn't make, maybe you get to training camp and he doesn't make the team. Remember, you've still got Kendre Miller. You've got Devin Neal, who you drafted a year ago. Audric Estime, who played well for you in the final month of the season last year. You could certainly go into free agency and add a player. There's been obviously a lot of talk about drafting Jeremiah Love. All that to say, you could be in a situation where the running backs that make your roster next year are more palatable than an aging, expensive Alvin Kamara. So if you restructure this deal to where he gets a little cash up front and it's not going to cripple you on the salary cap, and there's actually even more protections if he doesn't make the team, it's effectively left open the possibility that Kamara's not back. And if he is back, great. He's going to be back at a better number against cap. But also there's the possibility that maybe you're moving on from Alvin Kamara. It's going to be listen, the Saints have gone through, in the last half decade, a ton of really seismic change. Drew Brees retiring, Sean Payton retiring and then unretiring and going to the Denver Broncos. And now you look at Cam Jordan, DeMario Davis, Tyrann Mathieu has retired, possibly Alvin Kamara as well. Marshawn Lattimore at the trade deadline a year ago. The guys that were the core of that great run where the Saints in 17, 18, 19, 20 were pushing to get back into and through the playoffs, one by one, chipping away, and the core of those great teams in Saints history are on their way out of New Orleans. Kamara very well with this news today could be next. So we'll keep an eye on it as the league year starts on Wednesday at 3 o'clock Central. All right, it's After Further Review. Thanks for being with us. Friday show is brought to you by Don Juan Cigar Bar. We're going to knock out a quick break. Sports Center's coming up right after the top of the hour. Terrio will be here. We get to Ryan's letter, kick rocks. Got to talk a ton of LSU baseball with Terrio as the Tigers try to rinse the bad taste out of their mouth. 3 losses in their last 6 games. We'll get to all of it as we continue on AFR.
AFR.
Love telling you about Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com. lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Friends over at Lee Michaels, they're just the best. If you're thinking of buying that beautiful piece of jewelry for any occasion, maybe it's the diamond engagement ring. Remember, every diamond in the case is hand inspected by a family member before it goes in the case. There are no lab or man-made diamonds. Every diamond is a natural diamond from the finest diamond mines in the world. Scott goes on these diamond buying trips to India every year, and because he's buying for 9 stores, he has the benefit of buying in bulk, so he's going to be able to get the best selection and the best prices that they can pass along to you. Say it often. You go to the box stores, you're going to get a limited selection, cookie cutter. You go to boutique jewelers, not as good a selection, you're going to overpay. Lee Michaels is the sweet spot, like Goldilocks. It is just right. Go see our friends at Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry.